Welcome to the 2023 National Conference on Ending Homelessness. Please welcome to the stage Alexander Perez. Alexander Ray Perez, or Ifa Gunfuni, is a proud Black, brown, Indigenous, trans, and two-spirit person. Alexander has dedicated over a decade of his life working within and alongside systems to embody a holistic, conscious, and compassionate approach to ameliorating homelessness in the nation. Help us welcome Alexander as they usher us into our land acknowledgement.
Thank you. Okay, so first things first. So for those of you who don't know, that is a call and response from the New York youth. So I had to shout out. I am Alexander Ray Perez, and today I get the honor to shine a light on this sacred land on which we are gathering and the ancient peoples, known and unknown. This abundant land is traditional territory of the Anacostans, Nakachatunk, and Piscataway Kanoi tribe. These tribes have deep historical, cultural, and spiritual connections to this land, its waters, and its resources. This is why we must lend our hearts in reverence to the original native peoples of this very land. Our ancestors could not have made it here without them. So right here and now, we pay our respects to their elders, past and present, and express gratitude for their ongoing presence and contributions. I wonder if y'all know this song. Baby, if you love me, you got to show me love. Words are so easy to say. I know y'all know that song. Well, in light of that, while speaking and acknowledging land is ever important, today we invite everyone here to go deeper. Together, we are committing to learning more about Indigenous peoples of all lands we are gathering from today, knowing of their history, what was taken, what was sacrificed, and honoring their heritage, not just with words, however, with our actions. I am proud to say that we, yes, we at NAEH, that's right, we y'all, made a personal commitment and directly donated to the Rapanhanak tribe. I know what y'all are thinking. Most of us need money. How we gonna give it? Well, I got you. Abundance is many things, you know. So as a call to action, we encourage all of you to visit the Native Governance Center online, subscribe to the Beyond Land Acknowledgement series, and take the self-assessment to reflect more deeply on how we can support Native people beyond land acknowledgements. We leave you with a few questions that we hope will spark a momentum within you to see how we can honor the Indigenous people of this land, past and current. Are any of your behaviors uplifting Indian country or complicit to harm? Have you stopped to examine how your local lawmakers and candidates are voting on issues impacting Indian country? How can you incorporate nature and holistic view that preserves this land for all of us? I stand before you, someone of many Indigenous backgrounds, asking for you to see without eyes, feel without your body, and know without your mind what goes beyond words. Protecting our land and lifting the native peoples of land is urgent, as we find nature is crying out to us, from the depths of the Amazon to the rainforest in Costa Rica, to the woodlands all over the nation we call our home. Uplifting native people is not only about justice, it's about sustainability. I invite you to take a pledge today to learn more about the land you live, work, and play on. You know, there's apps that can help you do that. And if you learn how to give back, there's apps that can learn that you can help with you that. Because preservation of Indigenous tribes is not only about the people or the culture, it's about our great spirit and the environment that allows us room to argue, love, and find peace in it. Thank you. Love, ease, and peace.
Thank you, Alexander, for the land acknowledgement. Please welcome to the stage Alliance Board Chair Gary Parsons and former Alliance CEO Nan Roman.
And I could clearly tell that that applause was mostly for Nan. But thank you very much, Alexander, for this welcome to the land and this location. And speaking of welcome, there are two purposes of the plenary. And the first really is to welcome everyone here. We've heard from you so much what it means, this opportunity, and particularly now again in person, to share with your colleagues and collaborate with your colleagues, share your successes. Also, probably as importantly, share and provide mutual support in the struggles or the difficulties that you may have. The second purpose is recognition and recommitment. And that's an important aspect of what we do today. We are going to recognize two extraordinary leaders without whom, and this is literally speaking, without whom there would be no alliance today. That's an important recognition that it's time we had. And then I will say, I'm struck by not only whom I'm going to introduce and our honorees, the longevity, the length of time and commitment, which not only they, but I know many of you as well, put into this mission. It is truly something where I've been on the board of directors for over 30 years. I'm the junior member. I'm the newcomer. And that is what you'll see through the rest of this program, a recognition of that commitment. My job is to introduce to you someone who everyone knows, which is always a fun opportunity. We all know and respect, Nan Roman. All of us know that. She was the past CEO, set the vision for the Alliance. Some of you may not know the many years that she spent before she was CEO, working at a staff level. She started in 1987, so more than 3 decades of service and sacrifice. At that time, you could count the Alliance staff on one hand, let's put it that way. So it was a very small organization, but everyone was dedicated to a central mission. And the reason I mention that longevity is because I think all of us here recognize these things don't happen overnight. It takes that energy and commitment. But even if they don't happen overnight, we are all in it together. We are part of the Alliance family. Nan may no longer be CEO, but if you're once with the Alliance, you are always with the Alliance family. So we think that Nan, I would say in my estimation, represents the very best of that Alliance family. Famous quote, I'm sure everyone remembers the Martin Luther King quote about, the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. Our honorees, Nan and the honorees, are part of the Alliance's longer arc with a unified mission, with a unified commitment. That arc of performance and service and effort bends towards ending homelessness. Let me turn it over to Nan to introduce our honorees.
Hello, everyone. It's great to be here with you. It seems that homelessness has always been with us, and to some extent, of course, that's true. But widespread homelessness, as we know it today, has not always been with us. Homelessness as we know it today emerged in the mid-70s to early 1980s. It emerged largely because of the increasing inability of people with extremely low incomes to afford the housing that was available. But when it first emerged, we really didn't know the reason that we were seeing people living on the street. We just knew that we were seeing them sleeping on the streets almost entirely without shelter, food, or services to support them. In 1983, a group of 6 concerned leaders founded the National Citizens Committee for Food and Shelter. Its goal was to address an emergency, the needs of the growing population of people experiencing homelessness across the country. It is my honor today to introduce you to 2 of those leaders, Susan Baker and Betty Boyle, who decided to use their connections, which were formidable, to help tide people over until the problem of homelessness was solved. Susan and Betty are going to tell you a little bit about some of their early accomplishments. By 1987, it was clear that homelessness was the result of systemic issues and it was not going to just go away. The organization changed its name to the National Alliance to End Homelessness and began working to address the systemic issues that were causing homelessness and solutions to the problem. Much has been accomplished under Susan and Betty's leadership. Let me share a few of the amazing things that they did early on that made a big difference throughout the last decades. They helped increase the number of shelter beds. For example, in 1984, when CCNV's Mitch Snyder, a well-known activist, took over a vacant federal building in DC and occupied it as a shelter, Susan convinced the Reagan administration not to move CCNV out of that building, but to formally turn the building over to them and later to renovate it as a shelter. Early on, the federal government estimated that the size of the homeless population was 250,000 people, while the advocates estimated it at 2 million people. Contention over the size of the problem impeded progress. Betty Boyle contracted a respected researcher to assess the size of the homeless population. The estimate was 700,000, and that stuck. This more solid assessment made it possible to advocate for federal assistance to scale and to make the case for more robust data collection about the population. As it became clear that homelessness was not going to fade away on its own, the board convened multi-sector councils to surface better ways to approach the problem. Solutions that emerged included resuscitating single-room occupancy housing, reconsidering transitional housing, developing supportive housing, and the collection of data. When George W. Bush became president, Susan decided to engage the new administration immediately on the issue of homelessness. Those were the days, to be honest, when homelessness was a bipartisan issue. It was really not the politically divisive issue it is today. But I'll never forget joining Susan in a meeting with HUD Secretary Mel Martinez, literally right after he was confirmed. As he ushered us into his new office, he told us that he did not see homelessness as a housing problem or a HUD issue, but rather one of services, and it belonged at HHS. Suffice it to say that by the time we left, Secretary Martinez fully concurred with Susan that housing was a major driver in homelessness, that HUD should assume leadership, and that he should work with HHS to solve the problem. Of course, yes, none of this happened just because of things that the Alliance did or Susan and Betty did. Very many partners, many of you here in the room, were involved in all of these things. None of this was done by the organization alone. But I did want to share with you a few of the things that these incredible leaders did at the beginning before we really knew what was going on with homelessness. They used their connections to make progress, and as the Alliance itself grew, they kept us firmly focused on finding and advancing strategies that are proven to end homelessness. Susan Baker and Betty Boyle have been on the board of the Alliance since they formed the organization in 1983. In thanks and recognition of their incredible commitment and determination, the board has asked them to become members emeritus of the board. It is my honor to introduce Betty Boyle and Susan Baker. Betty can go first. Betty can go first. Oh, look.
What a thrill. And what a fabulous crowd. And to be associated with all these wonderful people that have sold their souls to help the homeless, house the homeless, whatever. It's so wonderful. I'm so grateful. Thank you.
Well, I have to tell you that my heart is so very full of gratitude to each and every one of you, and to the many thousands of people who have played a part in making the National Alliance to End Homelessness a reality over the last 40 years. In the mid-70s, Betty Boyle and I were so distressed to see the homeless people sleeping on the grates by the buildings, panhandling, and nobody even noticing they were there. We often talked about what in the world could we do to help this terrible situation. Well, it wasn't until we came back to Washington in the 1980s, when my husband and I moved back, that Betty and I gathered a group of 6, Republicans and Democrats, and started discussing in earnest what could be done with this awful situation. The fact that we had absolutely no experience didn't deter us. Meg Graham, Susan Coleman, Eileen Evans, and Rabbi Martin Siegel joined Betty and me in believing it was outrageous that in our nation of such abundance, we had such a large group of people living on the street and eating out of garbage cans. When we rallied together in 1982, we had no action plan. To be honest, we didn't know enough to have a plan. But we were certain that homelessness was a humanitarian crisis and not a political one that had to be addressed. We didn't want to solicit funds from the feds, but we did know a lot of people that were involved. And so we overcame our qualms about taking advantage of our political connection. Our first project was to solicit surplus items from the Defense Department. They had a bunch of things like cots and food and blankets, military-style rations, and to distribute them to nonprofits and faith-based organizations that helped people on the street. Vacant military facilities were also rented for $1 a year to nonprofits that housed the homeless. The Department of Health and Human Services agreed to create an interagency task force on the homeless to identify which shelters had the capability to help. And they also agreed to connect various programs within HHS network to coordinate working on this big homeless issue. We had a very humble beginning and many false starts. Our first director, Meg Graham, traveled to places she had to go for another job. She would take care of homeless business on the same trip because we didn't have any travel budget. I'll never forget that in 1986, we were desperately praying for money to be able to keep going. But unfortunately, our big grant request to a celebrity board member was turned down flat. Instead, he gave us several of his books. Thankfully, like manna from heaven, we did receive some unexpectedly large gifts that made it possible for us to continue. Faith was such an important item in our founding group, and we would never have made it without our trust in God. 2 were of the Jewish faith, 2 Catholics, and 2 were Protestants. And we didn't plan any of this. It just happened that way. For all our many meetings, and we had so many meetings trying to figure out what to do, there were only 2 givens. We would start every meeting with a prayer, and we made sure that we had enough chocolate chip cookies to last through the meeting. The National Alliance has been blessed with exceptional leadership. Tom Kenyon did a great job setting us up, being involved in changing our name to the National Alliance to End Homelessness, making important connections and putting us on the right path before he moved on 10 years later. We had wanted Nan Roman to follow him, but her husband's job took her away out of the state. Happily, a few years later, Nan, Tom, and baby Allie returned, and we all cheered when Nan did finally become our CEO. Her real-world experience working with the homeless resulted in the 10-year plan that helped change the trajectory of care for the homeless. The bipartisan work that she inspired in Congress added more programs and more funding for the homeless effort than any had thought possible. There also have been tangible results from efforts to reduce homelessness numbers, especially among veterans. Tragically, the COVID era and other society issues are increasing those numbers again. But thanks to the Alliance and all of you all out there and so many more friends, we are just going to continue this battle. How blessed we've been by Nan's leadership for almost 25 years until her retirement last year. She has been supported by a very strong, hardworking staff. Steve Berg has been with us almost 26 years. Sharon McDonald, 22 years. Shalom Mulkey, 14 years. And Kay McDevitt retiring this year after 11. One of our absolute mainstays in this organization has been our very effective, loyal, and generous board. Bob Valenci and Gary Parsons, who you just heard, have served for decades. And close behind are Jeff Hayward, Tim Marks, and Irene Mabry Moses. Now, it absolutely delights me that now we have another Baker family member, Meredith Atwell Baker, who is on the board. 40 years later, I rejoice over the amazing progress that the National Alliance family, and our family is a big family, have accomplished. But I certainly confess that my heart aches and aches over the amount that still needs to be done. Thankfully, with our new outstanding CEO, Ann Oliva, at the helm, and with all of you who are attending this conference and so many more, we will overcome this vast tragedy. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much for your commitment to ending homelessness.
Thank you, Betty and Susan, for those remarks. Please welcome to the stage Ann Oliva, CEO of the National Alliance to End Homelessness.
Y'all are trying to make me cry. Please don't do that. I have to talk for the next 20 minutes. Good afternoon, everybody. It is so wonderful to see you all here in DC for the Alliance's 2023 National Conference on Ending Homelessness. Thank you all for being here. Let's give it a round of applause and let's get some energy in this room. So the best part of day one, other than when it's over, is that at the beginning, I get to see how excited everybody is to be here. And I've just had so many people walking up to me, introducing themselves, talking about how much they love being here. And thank you, thank you, thank you. We know that you're sacrificing time with your families and with your organizations to be here. We are grateful that you're here with us. We have a wonderful week in store for you with a wide variety of sessions and opportunities to connect with the Alliance team and with each other. We also have fantastic speakers from across the country, including an amazing lineup of plenary speakers like Congresswoman Cori Bush, author Stephanie Land, and many more of our friends and allies in this work. We are going to work hard this week, but also have the time to relax and recharge because we've heard from you that you all need time to relax and recharge. A little bit more on that later. We're going to talk a little bit more about fun later. But on a serious note, I want to, before I start my remarks, I want to take a moment on behalf of the entire Alliance team to honor the life of Laura DeLapp, a member of the Alliance's BIPOC Collective and a day shelter manager for the Haven in Charlottesville, Virginia, who was tragically killed last month. Laura was light in our world. The graphic is exactly right. She was light in our world. A devoted mom, loyal employee, and fierce advocate on ending homelessness. She made an indelible impression on us at the Alliance, guiding us with her wisdom and compassion. And she embodied the exact reason that we started the BIPOC Collective, which was to use our platform at the Alliance to elevate local, longtime Black and Brown leaders who too often received relatively little recognition for their work. Laura's cousin, Jamie Rush, is here today as a conference volunteer, and we know that so many others in this room and online have suffered loss since we last gathered. And I want to take a brief moment of silence to remember Laura and others who are on your mind and in your heart today. We're then going to focus on having an amazing 3 days together because we know that's what Laura would have wanted. Thank you for that time and for helping us to honor one of our own. So I'm going to start by thanking my friend and predecessor, Nan Roman, and our board co-chair, Gary Parsons, for being here to celebrate and honor our co-founders. What nobody's actually mentioned yet is that Susan and Betty both have been honored with emeritus status on our board of directors. That happened in our June board meeting. And it's an exciting time for us because it's really a way to honor their perseverance and all of the time that they've had with us. So I really want to especially congratulate Betty and Susan for where'd you go? I lost you. For your, there you are. For your incredible work to build an organization that has continued to work alongside and for people experiencing homelessness every single day. You two are a force of nature. And I am honored to serve as our CEO and grateful for their leadership. So with that said, I am pleased to announce that in 2024, the Alliance will launch the Susan G. Baker and Elizabeth Boyle Innovation Fund. This will be a permanent fund of the Alliance to be used to provide financial support to people with lived experience of homelessness to pursue innovative, professional, and creative endeavors. In other words, to pursue their dreams. All right, everybody, let's do the thing that I always do when I'm up here. It is time to talk about you. Let's see who's in the room today. If you feel comfortable, and only if you feel comfortable, raise your hand in response to the questions that I'm asking if they apply to you. You can fit in more than one category. And I encourage you all to look around because you might see someone who raises their hand that you want to connect with during this conference based on how they responded to these questions. So let's start with how you're feeling. How many of you are feeling energized and joyful today? Let's see it. How many of you are feeling, maybe the rest of you, how many of you are feeling a little tired today? You can be joyful and tired at the same time. How many of you are looking for some downtime this week? How many of you are at an in-person Alliance conference for the very first time? How many folks have lived experience of homelessness or housing instability or of the systems that are related to homelessness? Welcome, welcome. How about frontline staff? Not a ton. Welcome, frontline staff. How about COC or systems leadership? Tribal members, tribal leadership. Technical assistance providers or funders. Where are my TA providers and funders? All right. How about staff from other national organizations? All right, I see y'all up here. Can I see the hands of our federal and local government staff? Do we have any housers in the room? Housers in the room? Not enough of you. Got to work on that. Good job for coming. And here's my last question. For those of you who are here for the first time, look around you because these are the folks that you're going to want to learn from. How many of you have been doing this work for at least 10 years? So as you heard, the Alliance has also been doing this work for more than 10 years. And in fact, this year, as you heard, it is 40. And thanks, whoever said, wow, thanks. And while I know that Betty and Susan and the others who had a hand in our beginnings hoped that we would have worked our way out of a job by now, the truth is that we need organizations like the Alliance, like so many of our national partners, many of whom you saw are in the room today, now more than ever. And more importantly, we need all of you who are here in this room with us today or online with us today, now more than ever. Because you, the folks in this audience and your colleagues back at home, fuel our work at the national level. You inspire us because you know success in this work isn't a straight line. It never has been, it never will be. But you do the work anyway. And you keep us going because you create opportunities every day to succeed in big and small ways. Like when you make a connection with someone who's living unsheltered, like when you hand keys to someone moving into an apartment, like when you make a breakthrough for a service or a program that your community needs. Those are all successes we need to celebrate and build on. And it's the reason that we're all here together in sweaty Washington, D.C. in the middle of July. The Alliance team has been all over the country this past year, listening and learning about what's working in your communities and what's not. And we've seen firsthand that you're driven by your love, your hope, your tenacity, and your conviction that a better future is on the way. And looking out at this crowd, I know a better future is on the way. I know we have a better future in front of us because of our collective power and talent. I see it in this room. I feel it in this room and in so many of the rooms that I've visited for the last 12 months. I also know that we have a better future in front of us simply because we have to. And I know it might not feel like it at times. We've all seen what we're up against in our work. It isn't getting any easier. Climate change is impacting our work. People of color, people with disabilities, LGBTQ people, and others are being marginalized by the very systems that should be serving them. So many people are struggling across this nation with housing uncertainty or getting access to the supports they need when they need them. Homelessness and housing are on everyone's radar right now, because they see people living on the street in their community and it cannot be ignored. Affordable housing is a topic of conversation in kitchens and at barbecues and in state houses and in mayor's offices all across the country. And now is the time to leverage that attention into an opportunity. We have an opportunity to dig deep on what's worked and push ourselves to try new things, to create new partnerships and build a larger community of people who care about this mission and see ending homelessness as our collective fight. We have an opportunity to partner with, not tokenize, people with lived expertise in the development of a new path. We have an opportunity to harness the nation's attention into something positive and powerful that will move us towards the future that we all want, a future where folks have safe and affordable housing with access to the types of support they want and need to heal from trauma, to pursue their passions and aspirations, to have a dream, to not be marginalized. And if we miss that opportunity, shame on us, but I am confident that we won't. Anyone here from Kansas? Where's my Kansas folks? Anybody? Back in the back corner. Can we talk about how you all rallied to fight back against terrible legislation that would have criminalized many people experiencing homelessness in your state? How you activated folks in your community and how folks showed up when you needed them? Kansas took that opportunity. The folks in Tennessee also fought back bad legislation, and the rest of us can too. Now is our moment to activate people towards the future we want. We need to act as a movement if we want to harness the power that you all bring at this moment when we have the nation's attention. If we don't speak up, someone else will. Someone who doesn't share our values, someone with different motivations, someone who doesn't care at all about the needs of our community or people who are experiencing homelessness. So we need to work together to row in the same direction, if you will. That means being both technically excellent with fidelity to proven models and leading with the love, the equity, and with our values that we hold dear. Because there is certainly and importantly a technical aspect to our work, how we make the best use of resources that we have and how we design and implement programs at the federal, state, and local levels makes a big difference. Sometimes it makes all the difference. But equally important is the way that we care about each other and work to partner with the right people. The strides we make are the result of a respect for the people that we serve. They are the result of a willingness to go above and beyond the status quo. An outreach worker once told me that her job is to love on people until they can love on themselves. And those words have stuck with me since she said it, and now I see it pretty much everywhere I go. For example, In Chattanooga, they had a 54% reduction in unsheltered homelessness between 2022 and 2023, and they did it while leading with lived expertise. In Hennepin County, Minnesota, they've seen a 27% reduction in unsheltered homelessness and just moved their 500th person into housing in a year and a half. They did it by investing in housing-focused case management, a service that did not exist before the pandemic. They also have implemented harm reduction programs to lead with the notion that every person is worthy of love and care. In Miami-Dade County, I'm going to keep going. You can clap whenever you want. In Miami-Dade County, the Homeless Trust secured financial commitments in excess of $42 million to acquire and renovate properties that will house at least 550 people experiencing homelessness. In Richmond, Virginia, a partnership with Medicaid managed care organizations has resulted in real-time coordination with shared patients to quickly connect people to the services and healthcare they want and need. The Minnesota Tribal Collaborative, keep clapping. The Minnesota Tribal Collaborative has successfully lobbied for changes to state and federal law that benefit not only Minnesota tribes, but also ensures access to increased funding for hundreds of other tribes throughout the United States. So listen, I only have 20 minutes up here, so I need to stop there. But there are so many examples from all over the country of communities that are seizing the moment and leading with love and compassion to make the progress that we need. And that's what keeps me in this work. People like you doing the hard work of ending homelessness with love and compassion and determination. And we're going to need all of those attributes going forward. Most of you know what the national data tells us. I don't have to spell it out here. Things might get worse before they get better. We strongly suspect that the data we see from HUD over the next few months will show us that the number of households in the worst housing situations has gone up. And as the pandemic era investments in affordable housing and the safety net expire, we have a lot of people on the edge. We also strongly suspect that the national point in time count numbers for 2023 will increase. The community examples I just gave you illustrate how important it is for us to lean into what we know works while also looking for ways to innovate and do better in a quickly changing environment. But we also can't do it alone. We need to think about how we do our work and about the partners that we engage. Because in many communities, the homeless system is working as fast as it can, but can't keep up with the number of people becoming homeless every day. We need other systems and other partners to be rowing in the same direction with us too. The National Alliance to End Homelessness has a responsibility to use the tools we have at our disposal to push for the change our field needs, to create opportunities for growth and connection among all of our partners, to educate and challenge policymakers at all levels to take action on what works, and to share and shift power. Coming out of the listening sessions we did over the last year, we identified some key priority areas that we're working on this year. And the first is housing. Most importantly, we are pushing for increased investments by federal and state government in housing that is affordable for all people with extremely low incomes, all people with extremely low incomes. And our work on housing also includes leaning in on the value of housing first as an intervention that works because it couples safe and affordable housing with the supports and services people want in order to heal and thrive. And because at its core, it ensures that people are treated with dignity and that their choice is valued. And I want to be clear that housing first does not mean and has never meant housing only. Services are a part of the package. And a housing first oriented community ensures that there are options for everyone, including models like recovery housing for those who choose that type of program. The second priority is real and sustainable partnership with people who have lived experience of homelessness. And to that end, I'm going to make the second announcement of my time up here. We are happy to announce that we have hired 2 incredible leaders at the Alliance in newly created positions. Tomorrow, you will hear from Albert Townsend, our new Director of Lived Experience Innovation. Is he here? And although you didn't know it, you already met our new Fellow for Equity, Inclusion, and Lived Experience, Alexander Perez. Who will be joining our team later this month. They will guide our work in this area and make sure we are well positioned to partner fully and thoughtfully with people who have lived expertise. And we are hoping to model these types of positions for the entire field. Yeah, let's do it. The third priority is narrative. Alongside partners like the Housing Narrative Lab and Invisible People, we're working to retake control of the narrative about homelessness. You all know the stereotypes that exist and what people outside of this work often think and say about homelessness. We see the negative rhetoric everywhere. It's in political speeches and in social media, and it's taking a toll on our communities and on our work. And it's infiltrating our state legislatures and Congress. And we cannot let that continue to happen. We cannot let that continue to happen. The Alliance will continue to work with our partners to produce new content. You saw a video this morning. You're going to be seeing videos throughout the 3 days together. Produce new content to counter the dangerous narrative that's being promoted that people experiencing homelessness are less than human, because we know that narrative can have deadly consequences for those who are unhoused. But we also know that narrative change is work that localities don't always have in their budgets. So the team at The Case Made has partnered with us to produce the playbook that's included in your conference app and that Tom will talk a little bit more about tomorrow, and is training several communities right now on their approach. We hope to expand that and other efforts in the coming year to promote the changes that we want. And up on the screen, what you see right now are some results of the visioning exercise that happened at the Case Made's pre-con earlier today. It does look like they had a pretty good time in that pre-con earlier today. And you can see that is about joy. It is about love. It is about bringing all of those positive, all of that positive energy into our work. And the fourth priority is supporting our workforce. In every community we visited, we heard about how hard it is to attract and maintain staff to do this work. Thousands of positions across the nation are unfilled in our sector. This has cascading impacts on funding and on the quality of the services that can be provided to people who are in our system. But we don't actually need to tell you that, right? You live that out every single day. We know that our frontline staff should be paid more than what they're being paid. So we are asking Congress to prioritize funding for this purpose. You'll hear more from Steve on Wednesday about other policy asks for this year, and I encourage you to stop by the Advocacy Hub between sessions to learn more. But I want to quickly mention that we are using the information from our listening sessions to inform our asks of the administration and Congress, to include increases in funding for key housing programs and for frontline staff salaries, a 2-year competition cycle for HUD's Continuum of Care program, new funding sources and ways to access the services people need, and more flexibility for funding recipients. So what we need from you, folks in this audience, is partnership to make sure that we're doing everything that we can to meet the needs of folks experiencing homelessness and the people who serve them across the country. So please, please keep supporting programs that work in your communities and maintain fidelity to the evidence-based models that act as the foundation of our ability to get folks into housing. Please continue to focus on the equity work that is so important to our progress. Partner and hire people with lived experience of homelessness and housing instability in your organizations. Support local and national efforts like the one in Kansas, the one in Tennessee, and others to combat policies and laws that criminalize people just for existing in public spaces. Sign on to the value statement available on our website and join our network so that you can stay informed. Work with us to reclaim the narrative about homelessness by using the materials we release to help with messaging. And that includes in your interactions with your staff and your board and your donors and your friends and your families, but most importantly, with your local leaders, including your members of Congress. And then lastly, make connections with each other and with us so that we can do this work together so that we're all rowing in the same direction. The Alliance, as I mentioned, has been working alongside you for 40 years. And we will continue to be in this work with you for as long as it takes. That means doing more of what we know works and bringing people along with us. We will continue to evolve and adapt in ways that are needed to realize the vision and justice we all want. What was showing up on the screen earlier from the Case Made session, that is affordable housing, safe and affordable housing for everyone, services that help people heal and thrive in a community where everyone is treated with dignity and respect. The Alliance has been working to develop and lean into a vision for the world that we want so that we know what we're aiming at, to make sure that we incorporate positive energy and joy into our work, because we believe what Dr. King believed, that only light can drive out darkness and only love can drive out hate. I hope that you all are feeling the joy and feeling the positive energy right now, because we are just getting started this week. Thank you, thank you, thank you all for being here. Thank you for your time. Thank you for all the speakers. Thank you for our sponsored guests for being here. I know yesterday was a really hard travel day for a lot of people. Thank you so much to Susan and Betty for being here and being such incredible and inspirational leaders for us. Thank you to Nan for being here. And then thank you to the Alliance staff. You don't know the kind of energy and work that they put into having a great conference for you all this week. And I just wanted to make sure that they all are feeling the love from me up here. And it is now my pleasure to invite our three vice presidents to the stage to share a little bit about their team's priorities and to tell you about some of the exciting things we have planned for the next 3 days. Please welcome Joy Moses, our Vice President for Research and Evaluation, Mary Frances Kenyon, our Vice President for Training and Technical Assistance, and Marcy Thompson, our Vice President for Programs and Policy. Thank you, everybody.
Wow, I hear some great energy out there. So happy to be here, happy to follow Ann, and good to see all of you and hear all the excitement in the air. We're just going to go over a few things and then we'll be wrapping up for the plenary. You can move on to some other sessions in the conference. I'm here to tell you a little bit about the Homelessness Research Institute. You may have heard from us in recent years. Some of you have kindly volunteered to participate in a survey or a focus group or spoken to one of the members of our team in an interview. If you've done so, we greatly appreciate you and your contributions to our work. You have enhanced what we've been able to do and the story we've been able to tell about homelessness. And you've contributed to projects that largely fall in two areas. The first is data analysis. We take various forms of data from government agencies and help to paint a picture of what's happening in the field. Hopefully, you've seen our State of Homelessness report. We also collaborate with researchers in the field to develop new studies that could help inform the ways that we reduce and end homelessness. Thankfully, this second area of our work has benefited from a significant boost at the end of 2022. The Hilton Foundation gave us a significant grant in order to do a lot more research in the space. We will be able to play a role of marrying research with the practical goals of the field. We've begun a process of soliciting research proposals and making grants to various academics, think tanks, and nonprofits in the field. They will be pursuing research questions that are aimed at improving our work in the areas of unsheltered homelessness, permanent supportive housing, and older adult homelessness. And I'm going to mention one other thing before I leave, something that's a part of this work. As Anne mentioned in her comments, we heard a lot from you while we were doing listening sessions about workforce issues, job vacancies, turnover that are impacting our ability to serve people who are experiencing homelessness. My team also heard about this issue a lot when we were talking to you about the pandemic and your efforts to implement federal emergency programs. So we are taking this conversation a step further. We are launching a national survey of people who work in homeless services. You should see the link on your screen. We ask you to fill it out. We ask you to take part in the survey. It would be very helpful to us as we continue to further the conversation and feed the conversation around policy and practice in this space. So yeah, that is the ask. Fill out the survey before you leave the conference. And also it would be really great if you shared it with people at home and got them to fill it out. You don't have to wait till you get home in order to encourage this. You can definitely share it by email, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We'll especially need your help in reaching people who are working on the front lines. We don't want to, we want to make sure that they aren't left out and they're included in the conversation, and just about everybody from all parts of the sector. So I'm going to really stop there, but the address is on the screen in homelessness.org/workforce/-survey. Again, please, we want to hear from you. You can't believe how extraordinarily helpful it is for us to leverage the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Joy. Hey, everyone. I'm Mary Frances Kenyon. I am the Vice President of Training and Technical Assistance, and it's my honor to lead the Center for Capacity Building, inclusive of our Center for Learning. So our team is where best practices are informed by evidence-based research, which in turn shape policy and then translate into implementation at the community level. Through our training and technical assistance, we help program and system performance transform so homelessness can be rare, brief, and one time. Several of us at the center, me included, got our roots in the field from being on the front lines for many years. Direct service is the heartbeat of the homelessness response. You help serve as ears and eyes on the ground for our team. And we know it's been especially hard over the last few years. But despite the work being hard, we continue to stick and stay, because even though we've made some great strides, we haven't ended homelessness yet. We know the strategies rooted in a housing first approach work. We just have more work to do together. Whether we are currently providing TA to your community or not, our team is always open to hearing from you. We're here to work alongside you. You can always reach out to us to talk informally, to problem solve, or just to bounce ideas off us. I want to go back to the Center for Learning. We've got some exciting news. The Center for Learning, which offers skill building in a flexible, easy to use online self-paced format, has recently got a facelift. So please stop by the table next to registration to play our knowledge check game, and where you have a chance to win prizes like free courses or the Alliance t-shirts. And as a reminder, and for those of you who may not know this, we offer free Center for Learning courses to people with recent lived experience of homelessness and discounts to organizations with smaller budgets. Now, I want to acknowledge that our conference falls on a holy day for some. The first days of Muharram which is both the first month of the Islamic calendar and one of the most sacred months in Islam. The first 10 days of Muharram represent a time of grief, mourning, and reflection. But it also marks a period of unity, harmony, love, compassion, and justice. Values I think that all of us here share. Despite some of the divisiveness we continue to see across the country and around the globe. I hope this conference is a refuge for those who need it, a time to foster connections in our new peer group meetings, and an inspiration for each of us to make our communities the beautiful, safe, and inclusive places we need them to be while we look forward to the work that still lies ahead. Muharram Mubarak to all who celebrate this new year, and I'm now going to turn it over to my friend and colleague, Marcy Thompson.
All right, I probably need to lower this a little bit. All right. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Marcy Thompson, and as Ann mentioned, I'm the Vice President for Programs and Policy at the Alliance. I'm so excited to be here with all of you today, and not just here at the conference with all of you beautiful people, but literally up here sharing this stage with these extraordinary women that I get to work with every day and learn from every day. And I'm honored to be a part of an organization that shares my values, working alongside people who are equally committed, who show up every day to do the work. I want to tell you a little bit about the work that the program and policy team is doing and what we're up to. Our legislative staff educate congressional members about the root causes of homelessness. We advocate for funding and policy solutions needed to produce measurable results, and we fight against the bills that are threatening our pursuit towards housing justice. Our field team engages local partners in policy actions aimed at our collective goal of ending homelessness. And that work culminates into Capitol Hill Day, which is this Wednesday. And it's an opportunity for you to meet face-to-face with your congressional members and their staff. And if you want to know more, hopefully you're already signed up, but if you're not, please stop by the Advocacy Hub. And I want to give a quick shout out to our volunteer state coordinators, as well as our official Capitol Hill Day advocates, who will ensure that members of Congress are hearing directly from people with lived expertise. The rest of our team is at work seeking out new partnerships and strengthening the ones that we have, while we deepen our understanding of the systemic causes of homelessness and the solutions that we need to pursue to end it. And we are committed to developing policy priorities in partnership with those who have been directly impacted by homelessness the most. This week is a week of learning. It is a week of cup filling, of community. And I am so excited to hear from so many new voices in our sessions. And I am equally, maybe a little more excited about some of the fun that we're going to have, live band karaoke, game night. I may have a costume change or two in the works. If you know me, that will not surprise you. We have a long road ahead. There is no doubt. But you and I both know we can do hard things. So let's choose optimism and hope over despair. And in the words of the great John Lewis, I hope that you'll join me this week and beyond in getting into some of that good trouble, that necessary trouble. I'm going to now turn it over to our incredible President and Chief Operating Officer, Shalom Mulkey, who is literally the engine behind the scenes, who is keeping us going every day, day in and day out. Please join me in welcoming her to the stage for some special announcements.
Do I get to work with just the most incredible team? Yes. Absolutely. So I do have just a few nitty-gritty announcements and then some other things that I want to leave us with as we go into the rest of the conference. First, the nitty-gritty. I really encourage you to download the mobile app, because the mobile app is where you're going to find the most up-to-date schedule. You may have heard in that some of the rooms have changed. The biggest one you need to know about is anything that was originally scheduled for International Ballroom East, which is where these folks are sitting right now, is now in International Ballroom West behind that wall. So for those sessions, please walk around the President's Walk and get down to that room. There are some other minor changes to some peer groups and some state prep sessions that all take effect tomorrow. Please check out the mobile app or come to the registration desk if you have any questions. The other thing is you may have noticed that we are not the only group in this hotel. There are 2 other groups. So this means it is especially important that we're wearing our name badges in all of our spaces so that we can identify each other, but also make sure that other folks know who we are and where we need to be. So please do wear those name badges. And while this is our first conference in the last year and a half where we don't have a mask mandate, we are asking and expecting that all attendees respect people's individual choice and whether or not they're wearing their mask. We at the Alliance really do have a zero tolerance policy for any form of discrimination or abusive behavior. And we are really striving to maintain an environment that is respectful and free from harm or harassment. So if you encounter anything that makes you feel unsafe, please come find an Alliance staff member. You can find us. I'm not wearing it. We all have these silver name badges. Please find any one of us if you experience something. Now, shifting gears. How many of you have actually found the wall of appreciation or have any idea about what I'm talking about? That's what I thought. So here's what I need you to do. Those extra large bags you got when you checked in, dive into that bag and find this card. You're going to see on this card that this is an opportunity for all of us here to recognize a frontline staff person who's back home who is doing an amazing work at ending homelessness. We want you to take this card, go up to our wall of appreciation, which is in the exhibit hall space, tape it to that wall so that we can recognize people who aren't able to be here today and are doing the extra hard work that they're doing at home. But there's more. Before you tape this card to the wall, there's a QR code on the back. Scan that QR code and enter this person into a drawing for an all expense paid conference registration to a future conference. It's going to include conference registration, accommodations, and travel. So please do this to make sure we have an opportunity to recognize those people at home. Yes, come on. And to be clear, it's not just one registration. It's about 10. So there's, I heard it. So please do make sure you're entering in those people. You know, you can tell that we at the Alliance have been really working tirelessly to pull this conference together. And we are incredibly excited about the conversations we've had so far and the ones that are come to the rest of the week. And, you know, there are several things that we really hope you're taking away from our time together. There's one that we hope that you're really starting with. We want you to know that this conference is your conference. We wouldn't be here without you, and you are the experts. So in particular, if you're looking through this agenda or you're in a workshop and there's a conversation that you feel like just hasn't happened or is a topic we haven't covered, come find an Alliance staff person so that we can see if there's any spaces that we can create to make it so. Now, there is one way you can make sure it happens, is you can sign up to host a roundtable discussion. These are discussions that are going to happen on Wednesday morning, and you can decide what topic you want to host, and they're going to happen during the breakfast hour. To sign up to host that roundtable discussion, please just stop by the registration desk. There's an iPad there for you to fill those things out. And then another really great way for you to connect with us is please come to the Meet and Mingle tonight. The Meet and Mingle will be hosted in this space, and it's another really fantastic, more informal way for us to continue the conversation. And then lastly, before I let us all go, one other fantastic opportunity we have tonight is we have an award-winning documentary film, Lift, A Journey from Homelessness to Ballet, that will also be available for people to screen and then have a Q&A with the filmmakers. So that is all that's going on tonight. But really, where I want to leave you before we show you this trailer and send you off for the day is we are so incredibly grateful and thankful for all of the work that you do in your communities, the impact you're having, the people's lives that you are changing. And so let us continue this conversation this week and beyond. Please watch this trailer and then get to your peer groups. Thank you.
My name is Steven. I came out of this shelter here because I joined ballet. I've come back to continue that program. It's 20 years later. I've traveled around the world performing and choreographing. I was the obvious choice to mentor these kids because I was someone who had gone through what they're going through.
The ballet.
But going through that shelter, there's some trauma.
What happened? Okay. Yeah, I don't feel so good. Okay, let's see. Get your feet.
We lost our home because my brother was having heart problems. We went from shelter to shelter to living in people's houses. It was a crazy life. I have a crazy life. Can't forget my lucky heart. I protect myself to not telling people that I live in a shelter. If I didn't say that, they would have been like, why do you live in a shelter?
I'm really good at dancing. I just need more responsibility overall to take care of myself.
Everything about Victor reminds me of me, but he came from public housing. It's hard enough to make it as a dancer, but it's even harder coming from our background.
There was this one girl, right, bothering him. I swung, but the teacher got in the way, so I kind of hit the teacher.
Oh my God. Working with these kids, I've had these realizations about myself that I didn't want to face. I want to make a new dance, but it'll be the story of going from homelessness to not homeless. Do you have any movements that maybe make you think about moving between homes?
See. We're doing like this choreography about our backgrounds. We're like getting movements into the work.
Yeah, that's good. What do you think that means?
Strong, play. OMG. I want my fingers to get like up top of there. What is that?
It's not like for you. I have light skin.
I'm black, honey.